The Greg Kelly Show.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
Yeah, let's start right there. You blew it right off the top. Amazing and beautiful and necessary. I am enjoying his humiliation. I'm worried for our country. I agree with 51% of our people that the 25th Amendment is needed immediately to remove this guy from office. He cannot, should not, must not be the president any longer. And yeah, people are on my case. Well, wait a second. We want him to stay right where he is. Part of me does. The political partisan part of me wants him to stay in that position so we can beat his ass in November. Although nothing's a given here, right? Everything is, they're going to do all kinds of trickery, just like they did before. But the bigger patriotic part of me, he should not be president for another second. Kamala, for all of her weirdness and goofiness and whatever, she's better than Biden right now. She is. And the United States deserves a president who does not have dementia. And it's clear as hell to everybody. And that, oh gosh, did you see Tony Blinken? Tony Blinken, his staff, the Secretary of Defense, and what was the other guy? The National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. The moment he said Vice President Trump, I chose Vice President Trump because I knew that she couldn't do the job. Which, by the way, she kind of said that. The subject is Vice President Trump. Can I hear that one more time, please? One more time. But listen.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
All right, let's start there. Did I think not qualified to be president? I know what the takeaway he wants to be, and the takeaway is I would not have appointed Kamala Harris if I didn't think she was qualified to be president. But that's not what he said. That's not the subject he used, and it's not the predicate he used, right? Subject, predicate. Do I get that right from fifth grade? Yeah. It's magical. This is what we've been talking about the entire time that he's been there. And they call us right-wing extremists. They say that we're involved in misinformation and disinformation and that we're Russian propagandists. They're the propagandists. How did they pretend that this guy was normal and they fooled tens of millions of Americans? That's why they're in such trouble right now. They are hanging on by a thread. He most likely will be removed. It's a big lie. You hear about the big lie? The big lie is that Joe Biden is normal. That was a big, big lie. The biggest lie, or at least the bigger lie, is that Donald Trump is a dangerous man. Huge interactive video feature at the New York Times. I prefer the New York Times when it was just a newspaper. Now it's like this entertainment mega website / content maker. He is dangerous in word, deed, and action. They have a dark American flag, and you scroll through it like that's the beginning of Star Wars. The words are going by. He puts self over country. He loathes the laws we live by. What law is that? The write down that it's a porn star on the check. If you're writing a check to a porn star law, that's not a law. Donald Trump is unfit to lead by the editorial board. And it goes through it. You know what it doesn't say? How he's unfit to lead. Doesn't mention one thing that he did, because once they start talking about the stuff that he did, they realize, or they should realize, and maybe they know, oh my God, he's actually a very traditional president in many, many respects. Like kind of textbook, pro-America. Executive orders, yes. Conservative justices, yes. Bold policy initiatives, yes. But all within the law. All of his executive orders were upheld by the Supreme Court. This is nothing crazy. It was nothing radical. It was just good. And it put a lot of lobbyists out of business potentially. Next week, for the third time in 8 years, Donald Trump will be nominated as the Republican Party's candidate for president of the United States. A once great political party now serves the interests of one man, a man as demonstrably unsuited for the office of president as any to run in the long history of the Republic. A man whose values, temperament, ideas, and language are directly opposed to so much of what has made this country great. What exactly? What? They don't actually get to any specifics. They don't say anything specific. It's just the labels, the hysteria that they've been pushing. This is about the most traditional, look at it, We want a border. We don't want to sexualize children. We don't want to get into dopey foreign wars. But if we do, if it's absolutely necessary, we must win. This is, it's straight down the middle, apple pie, barbecue. It's all good. It's all straightforward. These are the people, are the lunatics. You know what? There are three things that set off the establishment and a lot of the kooks, a lot of the, like the entertainment establishment. Three things that Trump did. The entertainment establishment lost their minds when Donald Trump came out with a tweet and he said, the Pentagon is no longer authorized to conduct surgery for transgender. No more sexual reassignment in military hospitals. Thank you. And they all lost their minds. How could he possibly say the military should not be creating transgender individuals? That's not a radical idea. Letting transgenders serve in the military, that's kind of radical. That's a little bit, that's the weird part. Not that you can't have, he just said you can't, the taxpayer will not be paying for transgender reassignment surgery or sexual reassignment. That's not crazy. Now, the other thing that set off the national security establishment against him, well, there were a couple. Number one, he was right about the Iraq war. They hated that. We have destabilized the Middle East. It was a great, big, fat mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a doozy. We should never have invaded Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. Well, you know who gave the okay for that? The intelligence community, the establishment, the Bushes, right? The sacred powers that be. They hate him for that. Hate him for that. You know, he tried to make nice on the intelligence community, and they just went to war with him. War. They tried to trip him up. Chuck Schumer said that they're going to do that. They're going to take revenge on an elected leader. Why would they do that? They shouldn't even care who's the president. So, this is the thing that he did. I did not know this until recently. So, remember, you know who John Bolton is? The walrus-looking guy who's used to be the UN ambassador. Real strange dude. He once said that the United Nations should be blown up. That's not the kind of guy you want working at the United Nations, but that's who the Bush administration put at the United Nations. He's a super war hawk. He loves war, has never served in uniform. A lot of times you get this. Guys who never served in the military think that war is the answer to like all their problems. And that's a way to be a tough guy. Right? You know, I ordered the troops. You know, we got to go. We got to be tough. We got to get Saddam. It seems like a tough thing to do. It's a stupid thing to do. It was a stupid thing to do. People don't realize that when you send 200,000 19 and 20-year-olds all the way around the world with guns, bad things are going to happen. Inherently, bad things will happen. There will be friendly fire incidents. There will be war crimes. There will be all kinds of terrible things that happen. Sometimes wars must be fought. That was not one of those wars. Anyway, John Bolton, what he was so upset at, and I just read this in his book, he thought that Donald Trump, he was his national security advisor, did the most irresponsible, unpresidential thing in his lifetime that he has ever seen or ever even knew about. I'm like, man, this sounds really bad. What did Trump do? You know what Trump did? He canceled an airstrike on Iran because he was told there might be 100 civilians killed, innocent civilians. And he thought that that was too high a number. This was a retaliation because they shot down one of our drones. And he just didn't think that was, Iran shot down an unmanned drone. Nobody was killed. It was expensive, $18 million. Now we're going to kill 100 of their people. I don't think that's right. Come up with another plan. And Bolton was totally incensed. He couldn't believe it. He trashed him all over town, privately, publicly. He got fired shortly thereafter. What's wrong with that? I don't think we should be killing 100 people for one of our drones over the Middle East, by the way. Not to mention, it was like 2 miles off the coast of Iran, right? If Iran did that to us, what will we do? Shoot the damn thing down? So that's one, two. So they are. I guess another one is COVID, but I'm not going to count that for now. They try to say that Trump was a maniac during COVID. He wasn't. You know who was at his side every step of the way? Fauci. All those press briefings, there's Fauci. And Fauci, he'll tell you that one-on-one, Trump actually was decent. And he was, Trump, for the travel ban from Wuhan. Once that thing broke out, everybody said he was terrible. Trump was ambivalent about masks. Didn't think that masks necessarily, if you want to wear a mask, great. If you don't want to wear a mask, okay. You know who else had the same opinion? Fauci. He mentioned in the debate Trump did that more people died under Biden than Trump. So, look, he's a normal president. Yes, he's extraordinary in so many ways, in style and the guts and everything like that, but he played by the rules. Now this Project 2025, they want you all scared about Project 2025. The fear-mongering that they do, it's part of the biggest lie that Donald Trump is an existential threat to America. That is their next, well, not their next. They've been engaged in it in a long time. But we just saw their first lie blow up, that Joe Biden is a normal person. Aren't they a little bit concerned about what history is going to say about these people? What was the other big mistake yesterday? Cut one. This is before the press conference. Zelenskyy and Putin. You heard about this? He gets him confused. Cut one. Zelenskyy is standing right there, by the way, and he can't believe what he's about to hear. Cut one.
Now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelenskyy. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway.
Nobody laughs. It's not cute anymore. It's not funny. It's sad. And this Joe Biden needs treatment. He needs, how do you treat this stuff? I don't know. Probably entails rest and medication, not running all over the place, not especially that fake running that he does. Democrats realize, the big money Democrats have now suspended $90 million. $90 million, they say Joe does not get unless he quits this race. So what we think is going to happen this weekend, Obama and Pelosi, they're orchestrating this whole thing. The intervention will take place this weekend, and the announcement that he's leaving the race takes place on Sunday. I don't think he can get out of it. Now, then again, James Clyburn says he has until August 19th to make the decision. That James Clyburn, gosh, we don't live in a democracy, by the way. It's not a democracy, certainly for the Democrats. They have rigged the rules so that the party leaders get who they want. It's not a fair fight. It's not fair. Bernie Sanders was poised to beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, and they rigged it so Hillary would win. And that's what they do. Going into in 2020, what happened to Biden in Iowa? He came in fourth place. They say there are 3 tickets out of Iowa and 2 tickets out of New Hampshire. You got to be in the top 3, Iowa. He was 4th. You got to be the top 2, New Hampshire. He was 5th. He gets to South Carolina, and they have a meeting, and all of a sudden, Pete Buttigieg drops out. The guy won New Hampshire and Iowa. Elizabeth Klobuchar drops out. She was doing better than Biden. I mean, they just got in line. They used to have this expression, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. It's the opposite now. It really is. They fall in line. They do what they're told. The votes be damned. Nobody cares. It's up to the party. It's up to James Clyburn. And remember, James Clyburn, the reason why we have Kamala Harris, he insisted that the vice president of the United States be just like his daughters, women of color. He wanted the next Supreme Court justice to be just like his daughters, a woman of color. It gets down to the most superficial, stupid things. You think that these people have big thoughts and they're really worried about much? No, they're not worried about us. Nothing is fair. Nothing's on the up and up. Only MAGA, actually. Only us. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. This is the Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, Alec Baldwin is going through trial right now, right? He's on trial in New Mexico for killing that girl, involuntary manslaughter. The filmmaker, it's really wild. They got it on tape. They have it on tape. They have the moment on tape where he shoots her. That silly movie, Rust. Can you believe it? Pretty soon, I think they'll just use all AI for all movies. Why go through the trouble of hiring all those people, going to the desert, having to get trailers and special food? Half of the movie production is about food, by the way. You got to feed the crew. I remember I was involved in a production myself. I'm like, whatever happened to bringing your own lunch? Like, why? Like that was the first thing you had to do, was make sure everybody was fed. I'm like, we're in the middle of New York City. What's up? Why is that on me? Why is that? Oh, okay. All right. Certain things people expect. I never expected my employer to give me lunch, although it happens a lot around here. We got a beautiful spread. Now, let me hear this from CBS News. Alec Baldwin, involuntary manslaughter trial, day 2, cut 15.
Witnesses are taking the stand in the Alec Baldwin involuntary manslaughter trial in New Mexico. Prosecutors are trying to prove that Baldwin was acting negligently while holding a prop gun on the film set of the movie Rust. A live bullet was discharged from that gun, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and wounding director Joel Souza. On the second day of witness testimony, jurors heard from a crime scene technician about whether she could determine how a live round made it onto that movie set.
I do not have any physical evidence to show where the live rounds originated from.
There is zero evidence in this case that Alec Baldwin brought a live round onto set, correct?
Correct.
There is zero evidence in this case that Alec Baldwin loaded that live round into that gun, right?
Correct.
If convicted, Baldwin faces up to 18 months in prison. Rust armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, who was serving 18 months in prison for her role in Hutchins' death, was called to testify on Friday, but will not cooperate.
18 months for killing somebody. Well, it is involuntary manslaughter. I've heard about that before, like criminally negligent homicide. You get like a year for that. I'm not a big Alec Baldwin fan, but I think he's kind of innocent here. Don't you? Never in a million years would it have occurred to me that there would have been a real bullet in a gun. I'm a little bit surprised they had real guns. I mean, the whole damn thing is make-believe. Then you got to hire an armorer? That lady who's in prison now, an armorer. Why do you just give everybody a toy gun and then you can take care of it? What do they say? We'll take care of it in post-production. You can fix anything in post-production. You can make it sound like a nuclear bomb goes off when you pull the trigger. Toy guns. Has Hollywood gotten the memo on that yet? No, they haven't. Silly. Mostly high, too.
You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
Hey, our friend Mark Gastineau, the New York Jets legend, a major story about him in the New York Times. I love Mark Gastineau. Learned a lot from him. He's a man of great faith. And this story is interesting. I hope he likes it. I think it's pretty good. You know, you never know when you sit down with the fake news and they write 4,000 words about you, how it's going to come out. And, you know, when you read about yourself, it can drive you crazy. It talks about his highs and lows. And where he is now in Pennsylvania, happy and very close to God. I forgot they called it the New York Sack Exchange, right? That whole the defensive line there, and they were tackling guys like crazy. He did very well on the field. I didn't realize how fast he was. Let's see here. He could run the 100 in like 40 seconds or something like that, or 4 seconds. 4 seconds. Just no. Speed was his gift. So he worked to enhance it by running downhill in his driveway over and over in an early adaptation of overspeed training. That's what it's called now. When an NFL scout timed him in the 40-yard dash, Gastineau ran 4.6 seconds at 265 pounds. In disbelief, the scout told him to do it again. Another 4.6. The scout said his watch must be off. He tried another, and Gastineau ran 4.59. Jets coaches were in charge of the North team. All right, so he gets over there. This is the late 1970s, and he starts performing incredibly well. He does that dance in the on the other side, the sack dance. Some of the players didn't like it. He starts making serious money, buys himself a mink coat and a Rolls Royce and a Ferrari and a Lamborghini. Damn, they called it Gastineau money, and other players were envious. They wanted that kind of money. But you know what? Just like, the office can be like this, there were cliques. The team was full of cliques and petty jealousies, says then Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker, who recalls one teammate spitting a wad of chewing tobacco in Gastineau's soda cup when he wasn't looking. Yep, that's jealousy. With 22 sacks that year, Gastineau set a record that stood for 17 seasons. That was 1984. Wow. I just remember him bringing it every play, says Hall of Fame Houston Oilers offensive lineman Bruce Matthews, whom Gastineau beat for one of those sacks. The sacks won him fans, but not friends. Teammates voted running back Freeman McNeil most valuable player on the Jets after he rushed for 1,070 yards, 13th most in the NFL. All right, so let's see. Let's get to the stuff. He was married to, I forgot about this, Brigitte Nielsen, the 6'1" Danish model. She was married to Sylvester Stallone, right? And Arnold Schwarzenegger. Nielsen had her people get in touch with his people after she saw him in a televised interview wearing nothing but a towel. They became the Taylor and Travis of their day. People magazine featured them on the cover, calling them a pair of humongous lovebirds unable to keep their hands and lips off each other. Through the first 7 games of the 1988 season, Gastineau seemed revitalized. He was selected to serve as a game captain for the first time in his career, drew praise from teammates, and was leading the AFC in sacks. He attributed his success to his happiness with Nielsen, but the relationship eventually became a wedge between him and the Jets. Walker walked into an elevator at the team hotel and saw the two of them, expecting an introduction, but Gastineau never looked up, never said a word. I love Mark and all my teammates, Walker said, but I think he did things that didn't give a good indication of the type of person he really was. He got to be such a superstar that he kind of elevated himself over everybody. All right, so, we hear this sometimes from guys who really make it big. And then he starts getting into some trouble here. He pleaded guilty to menacing and criminal possession of a weapon, sentenced to undergo counseling. He failed to show up and was sentenced to serve weekends in jail. When he skipped a weekend, he was ordered to spend 1 year at a residential treatment center in the Bronx. He says his attorney wrongly advised him that he could leave the state. When he did, he was arrested and sentenced to 18 months in prison. At Rikers, wow, the Bronx jail, known for violence, abuse, squat. I don't think of Rikers being in the Bronx, by the way. I think of it being in Queens. You got to get to it from Queens. You can't get to it from the Bronx. I guess it's closer from the Bronx, but whatever. He says inmates tried to intimidate him and shake him down for money. Sometimes it was really, really, really scary, he says. One day a Jets game came on prison television and he saw a player wearing number 99, his number. How did I get here, he asked himself. This was the bottom, right where he was supposed to be. After 11 months, Gastineau was released from Rikers. When he had been in the residential drug treatment program, he met congregants of Times Square Church who invited him to attend a service there. Whenever Gastineau met people at the church, he introduced himself by saying, Mark Gastineau, New York Jets. He saw himself as who he had been, not who he could be, and this made him wonder if God or anyone else could love him. He met with Pastor David Wilkerson, who founded the non-denominational church. You are not Mark Gastineau anymore, Wilkerson told him. You are now a child of God. In 2005, he met a realtor who didn't know anything about him. Wait until you read about me, he told her. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. I'm in the Hall of Shame. She read about him and then came to believe he wasn't Mark Gastineau anymore. I went by how he treated me, says Joanne Gastineau, who became his third wife in 2007. Mark led Joanne to Times Square Church, which was just what she needed, and she was just what he needed. They volunteered to scrub the church's public toilets and join the choir. For a weekly rehearsal, they drove from New Jersey, which sometimes took hours. They took the drive again on Sundays to perform at 3 services, 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m. He couldn't sing that well, so he put him in the top row, says Pastor Carter Conlon. He said he thought it was because he was tall, but it was because the top row was the farthest from the microphone. I didn't know anything about sports, but the sports fans couldn't believe the same Mark Gastineau, who played for the New York Jets, was wearing a robe, clapping his hands, crying and singing. But Gastineau, who was still struggling with something, he couldn't forgive Klecko. Is it Joe Klecko? Klecko was a rival on the team. Conlon told him unforgiveness would hurt him more than Klecko, and implored him to let it go. The former teammates were together for an appearance in 2020 in New Jersey shortly after Klecko had shoulder surgery. Gastineau suggested they pray for healing. Klecko was deeply appreciative. I was a young kid, Klecko says. If I could go back, I probably would have been more accepting of his way and tried to talk to him more about it. Once the game is set aside, you have a different life. There is no confrontation between us anymore. I wish him all the best. These days, whenever they see each other, Gastineau asks about Klecko's family, and that means everything to Klecko. I shouldn't have done the things I did, Gastineau says. The playboy attitude I had basically brought me into an atmosphere that was really wrong. He was once the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL, and players around the league, envied the Gastineau money. But during his cancer ordeal, money was tight. Oh, he had colon cancer. A GoFundMe effort helped. His old teammate, Lions, organized a fundraiser, and some powerful people stepped up anonymously. Gastineau does well now. Paychecks from appearances help. He established a scholarship fund through Times Square Church that benefits at-risk youth with passionate desire to serve Jesus through sports or music-related ministries. Gastineau finished his career with 107.5 sacks, 0.78 sacks per game. The only players with a better sacks per game rate in history are T.J. Watt, Deacon Jones, Myles Garrett, and Reggie White. Sports Illustrated's Paul Zimmerman once ranked him history's 7th greatest pass rusher. Yet with his complicated legacy, Gastineau has never been a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Deserves to be there. I have a wonderful life, a wonderful wife, and this little dog, he says, looking down at Gracie, their golden retriever, who won't stop giving affection. They both love me, and that's everything I need, you know? Well, I love it. Good for Mark Gastineau, who is a big-time supporter of WABC and the rest. Man, I did not know that about, I forgot about Brigitte, but the most important thing, that Times Square Church and how he saw the light, and you never know where you're going to see the light. He was at Rikers. Rock bottom. Exactly. Who wrote that story? It was real. I hope Mark likes this because sometimes, again, if they write a story about you, Dan Pompey. Good for you, Dan. We like it a lot. I got to get back to the political situation, though. This just came in. Donors said to freeze roughly $90 million as long as Biden stays in the race. Wow. These people are not playing around anymore. It's one of the most concrete examples yet of the fallout from President Biden's poor debate performance. His rival, Donald Trump, said he might announce a running mate during the Republican convention next week. That could come even sooner than that. The press conference yesterday, he really stunk at it. All right. He just, let's see here. This is another time he blew it. Cut 6, please. Cut 6.
And so our military is working. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military, as well as the Secretary of Defense and our intelligence people. Well,
that's commander-in-chief is him. The commander-in-chief he's the commander-in-chief. Talking about the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff as military aide, getting that backwards. This was pretty bad, too. Cut 16.
Look, folks, this is, anyway, in the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway, it wasn't about read what his objective is. And but then again, they're better than a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
Man, it's just it's terrible. He needs treatment. He needs therapy. Maybe even something to do with the disinhibition. That's a great word, disinhibition. When you have dementia, it disinhibits you, and you say oddball things like this, and you do strange, you grope women you just met, smell their hair, lick little children, and you start talking like an old man pervert. Cut 5, please. Cut 5.
And so tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I think it's happening right now. It's happening. There isn't one prominent Democrat other than Chris Coons. And by the way, you felt up his 17-year-old daughter. Yeah, and there's video proof of it. How is it that somehow Donald Trump is a sexual predator and you're Mr. Nice Guy? No, it's the opposite. Our world is so backwards and corrupt that you get away with this stuff. But guess what? Your time is up. God was watching the whole time. Sorry, Joe, but you deserve it. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly. You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
For me, Donald Trump is the epitome of an alpha male, right? He's there to protect, provide, make sure the citizens of the U.S. are, in a good economy, protecting us. I feel protected by Donald Trump. That's why I wanted to come out and publicly endorse him, because I just feel safe.
Okay, who was that? Amber Rose. Who is that? Amber Rose is an American model, rapper, and television personality. Young Jeezy's single, 2008. She hangs out with Kanye West, and, she's kind of cool. Let's see here. She was married to Wiz Khalifa. All right, with these kinds of credentials, I would want her endorsement. I'm serious. I think it's actually kind of significant. A lot of people know who she is. A lot of people like her. And people from all walks of life are coming out for Trump and coming out against Biden. Let's see. Richard Branson. He's that Virgin Airlines guy, right? Who has an island. He has come out saying that Joe Biden must leave the race. All right. Good for you. Is he an American? I don't think he is. Maybe he is. He definitely grew up in the UK. He's very tight with Obama. I mean, very tight. Very, very tight. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm implying. It's been mentioned quite a bit. But then again, whatever, right? I mean, whatever. And there's all kind for, we know that, look, he handed over his letters to a historian, his gay love letters. Barack Obama wrote gay love letters. It's a fact. It's a fact. And there's nothing really scandalous about that other than he tried to keep it a secret. Just like, he could have been Muslim and run for office. I would possibly vote for a Muslim. I don't know much about Muslim or Islam. I don't. But it's not a deal breaker in terms of, hey, can you do this job? I don't ask, at work, you don't ask what, right? All right. I think I'm on solid ground here. Pamela, hello.
For 3.5 years, this has been going on. So this is no shock to me. And it doesn't matter. He should stay because the same people are running the country. We've been a joke for 3.5 years and put through torture. And Obama and his group are running the whole show. It really doesn't matter. But now they're scared because there's a chance they'll lose. Their Frankenstein monster that they created for the facade is breaking down at a faster rate. And they're like, oh, no. So really, the best thing for us to save this country is for him to stay and keep the Democratic Party busy with that, just like they kept us busy for 10 years while they tortured Trump.
All right. Look, I kind of want him to go. All right. I want him to go. He's bad for America right now. You're right about the uniparty, though. Did you hear what Roger Stone told us? right? Like the Uniparty did not, they thought that the indictment of Trump would stop Trump, and they would not have cared Biden or some generic Republican, right? So the Uniparty is totally freaked out because Trump is coming back. I don't want him to stay. All right. And I think the ultimate humiliation would be ejecting him. And I can't stand it when people give me a hard time for that. Well, actually, I don't, it doesn't really bother me, but Pamela, I want him gone by sundown. All right. He's I want him gone. I do. I want that 25th Amendment. 51% of the American people want that guy 25th Amendmented. Thank you. Hey, what's up with Alec Baldwin when he gets out of the SUV? He looks like he's crippled. He really is in bad shape. I will say this: Hilaria is a very beautiful woman. She's something else. The fake Spaniard. Robert, hello.
What you doing to Charlie? I just went down a whole list of stuff.
Hey.
I gotta do it every day in pain. I take none of your pills.
Hey. Stop. Turn them off. Don't talk about my pill habit on air. I don't have a pill habit. Mimi in New Hyde Park, yes.
Hi. I was listening to a Charlie Kirk podcast, and he thinks that by the end of maybe 2 weeks, he got this information that Biden is going to stay, and the press is going to boost him. They're going to turn towards him, and he's going to get people to vote for him again. I hate it, but that's what he said.
All right. Well, Charlie may or may not be right. I love Charlie Kirk. Very bright guy. Very entrepreneurial and a force for good. I disagree with him. I think he's a dead man walking, Joe Biden. All right. I think he's going to be removed and shortly. All right. These people now have gone out. I'm sorry. When Clyburn says what he said, and what did he say again? He said he's kind of open. He's open to a replacement, and that Joe has until the 19th. The 19th. Here's a real sleazeball. His name is Ron Klain, Klain, and he's been hanging around Joe Biden on and off for about 35 years and making money, revolving door, work in government for a little bit, cash in, work in government for a little bit, cash in, work in politics, cash in. Right now, I believe he's the top lawyer at Airbnb. That's a big money job. No respect for us. No respect. Could you imagine going on TV? What do they say? He thinks we're children. Cut 17, please. Cut 17.
Finally, Ron, the national polls we looked at that are head-to-head, neck and neck within the margin of error the last 2 days do show some strength for President Biden. There have been questions and concerns since the debate about the battleground state polls. We should point out he's still running effectively within the margin of error in the states that really will decide the election, which are Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin.
Shut up, Willie.
So what can you tell voters about what you all see happening inside those battleground states?
Look, it's a close election. I said that a year ago. I said it would be a very close election right till the very end. It's going to be a close election right till the very end. And I agree. It's close in those states, close in Pennsylvania, close in Michigan, close in Wisconsin.
Fast talker.
He was in Wisconsin recently. He's going out to Michigan, and he obviously campaigns in Pennsylvania regularly. And we're going to continue to fight hard in those states. And I think Joe Biden is uniquely suited to those states. He has identified with working people. He has the support of the auto workers, which are critical in those states. And he's brought manufacturing jobs back to those states. After decades, those states losing manufacturing jobs is on the increase in the industrial heartland of our country for the first time in a long time.
Sounds really nervous and weird, doesn't he? It's not working.
Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k as the stock market braces for impact. I'm Larry Kudlow, and I urge you to fortify your savings with physical gold with my friends at Priority Gold. To learn how gold and silver can help diversify your savings, please call 1-800-405-GOLD or just visit PriorityGold.com to get a free gold information guide. That's 1-800-405-GOLD.